think, let's hope I rejected everything. Yeah, I did. Okay. So I do have the screenshot showing that it has in fact been filed in this county in Ohio. Like I was just saying, though, I haven't redacted the addresses on that yet, so I can't not yet show that. But Jonathan Lee Riches, aka JLR, plaintiff v. Jason Smith, aka Rockalot, aka Unirock Live. Yeah. So type defamation per se, libel, slander, tortious interference with business relationships, intentional infliction of emotional distress.
Say that you believe that it would be wrong in your situation. You could say it would be wrong if it happened to you, but it was right for me to do what I did. And you could even maybe try to argue with me in that respect, but that's your prerogative. I lived through it, right? I went, and after getting this letter, went into Discord, basically asked everybody, what do we do here? Like, how do we handle this? Again, never having it happen before, and never having anyone dox the family alone, try to threaten me with the doxes of the family with a PayPal dono, let alone mailing the family, right?
For context, you will hear commentary on the facts we know so far. Unirock's family was also mailed to ensure the letter would reach the intended receiver. I believe it was also stated that this letter was mailed to several addresses connected with Unirock, as it was not clear which address was his current address.
When we've decided that the appropriate way to handle this is for me to go to my attorney. Fuck, I just lost track of what I was saying. What was my second thing I was going into, Rachel? Did you hear me? Oh, Queen Bee. Okay. Not tagging Queen Bee. Yes, I did. And again, you can go back to the stream I did with Queen Bee. You see, there is responsibility in any situation on both sides. Okay. And so when, as adults, something happens, I can only do what I need to do. And if the other person responds, if the other person reaches out, if the other person chooses not to, I am not going to pursue them. Okay. If I factually know that I've done everything in my power to make sure that they have been notified, got me, then that's enough.
There was no personal email or message. Unirock simply tagged Queen Bee in only a few posts on his community pages.
I'm not required, while being doxxed and threatened, while having, these two idiots pulling everyone's strings out there like they're doing, JLR Betty. Well, there's probably more than two, but you know what I mean. One of my biggest observations here is how many people out there are willing to defend J-fucking-LR without addressing the arguments against JLR. Go to the top of the list, people. If you want to complain about small issues, we can. I'm down for that. Well, isn't that one of the biggest criticisms towards me? I talk too much. I'm addressing every little thing, right? Okay, good. We can do that.
More importantly than that, it's arguable that Jason knew that this was coming because, as some people have been pointing out in chats recently, that JLR in the past has sent these cease and desist letters through email. Well, this one was sent certified mail to several addresses to ensure that it found its way to Jason.
Thing that he realized is this YouTuber exposed my past. So then he digs to find my address, my family's addresses, so that he can start a harassment campaign against them. Immediately, as soon as he has the information, he starts to harass with the PayPal dono and the letters.
This one was sent certified mail to several addresses to ensure that it found its way to Jason.
Remember when what was the PayPal dono? What did Betty say it was about? And what did I say that he mentioned in his dono? An interview with those people. Strange. He wants an interview. I inform him that I'm willing to give him an interview with me and have some of those family members call into the interview. But instead, he is mailing those family members a cease and desist to give to me for, when he has, declined to use direct means of communication to me. Because again, he's wanting to start a line of communication with a disgruntled family member. He's wanting them to be like, oh yeah, I hate that motherfucker. Here's some dirt on him and here's his address or whatever. And then he's wanting to be able to directly harass me so that I'll shut up. Okay. That's what he did. If you look at his behaviors, literally his first behavior, I made sure he knew I got it. Why didn't he just PayPal me and say, I sent you a cease and desist to this email address? I sent you a cease and desist to this Twitter account. I messaged your moderator on Twitter and asked them to give you this link. Once you message me on it, I'm going to send you a cease and desist. Nothing.
Queen Bee would have appreciated the same effort when the assumption that she and her family could be in danger was put out by Unirock.
So anyone that's using some kind of defense for JLR, you are defending the person who I showed you, the person I showed you in the video that did this to these kids and their family.
I don't think anyone is defending JLR.
I've heard that. Yeah, no. I've heard people basically making arguments that JLR didn't dox me. He just sent a cease and desist.
But the thing
and anyone
is,
that says that is
putting
defending.
it out publicly. So I think that argument
it's not.
he did not put it out publicly. So the argument.
No.
That's the first step you do before you file a lawsuit against someone in this regard. And they made sure that they did that properly. You don't go to these extra steps and extremes to do that unless you have the complete intention of filing lawsuit should you feel compelled to. It would also explain why he was so desperate to try to win over the court of public opinion first, and by characterizing it as something other than a cease and desist letter. And he even tried to gain the support of other content creators by lying to them and insisting that they were included in this threatening email. That was not a cease and desist letter.
He texted me addresses and names of family members he should have never had under any circumstance. There was no mention of a cease and desist in that transfer. There was no mention of a cease and desist in his first docs. Okay, he was trying to maliciously let me know, hey, I have this incredibly horrible background. I have this incredibly horrible reputation of stalking people and following them and trying to wield tragedies or bad information or things that have happened to them to harass them.
Okay. I opened the email today and I read, "Hi, Aaron. I hope you're doing well. I mentioned the other day that I'd have more info to share soon. As you saw in the cease and desist, we had set the deadline as May 2nd for Unirock to retract and take the videos down. But as you know, immediately upon receipt of the cease and desist, he proceeded to do a series of live streams in which he made up even more preposterous lies while continuing to repeat the same lies we called out in the first place."
So fact. That's just a factual statement. Okay. And we could go through this for hours. So here's what I'll say, Julie. Let's talk about this afterwards. Me and you, because you are willing to talk to me, I think. And if we'll both get on the same page when it comes to what a dox is.
To be honest, I'll be honest. I don't think we're going to get on the same page. As far as the letter thing goes, you're doubling down on it. If I was you, I did a video on you yesterday, and it was pretty, kind with the criticism. And I understood the initial panic, but the doubling down, the saying it was handwritten, you kind of shat in Navy and the people that left when...
I did what now? Okay, let's go through each thing one by one. Do you mind if we do that?
Of course.
Okay, good. All right. So let's start with we'll go past the docs thing. We'll talk about it later. I am not doubling down that it's a docs. I'm going off of.
I'm saying about the letter. Like you're not getting.
I know. We're gonna
the digs at Navy and everyone leaving. I just don't appreciate that because they felt misled.
I was just joking. Okay, Julie, I was doing that because again, they're my friends. Right? Whether they leave the Discord or not, they're my friends. I feel like I can joke with Navy right now, even if he's mad at me about this situation. And remember, I haven't talked to Navy since Saturday night. So I think I'm going to end up talking to him today. I don't see him ignoring me. Yeah, and I'm sure we'll figure out what's there. But no, I wasn't being mean to Navy. I was just being a guy. The way that friends respond to another friend getting mad at them over something, we make jokes about it, we take tiny little joke digs at each other. And if he wasn't my friend, I promise you I wouldn't have done it. But I do want you to understand we need to separate certain issues. That's the main thing we have to do is separate those issues, handle what's there, and I will respond publicly today and handle this garbage so that it's over.
The lawsuit for defamation, libel, slander, and tortious interference of business relationships was officially filed yesterday in Ross County, Ohio. We expect service to happen sometime today. Now, according to Ross County court records, Unirock has a history of dodging service and forcing the courts to enter default judgments on him. Since he brought his mother into the situation in such an aggressive way, we added her to the suit. He also seemed to confirm that her address is correct by way of his wild claims that she was in fear for her life. So both parents were included in part to ensure the lawsuit is served, and also because he dragged his mother into this by making up false claims that she was quote unquote threatened.
So just so that we're here and we're straight, anyone that wants to try to make some argument about how it's not a dox is most likely trying to ignore what JLR did in the beginning. They're trying to ignore that JLR started all of this through doxing my family. He shared it with Betty. They both then send me messages. And we've already been through this a million times. There was no controversy when I went live to talk about the PayPal docs from either Betty or JLR. There was no controversy. There was no one arguing against it. Everybody agreed. Nobody made videos, right? It was just everyone agreed. Yeah, you don't go because Uni made a video about stuff you did in your past.
From on or about March 30th, 2023 to present, defendants have carried out a campaign to slander plaintiff. Defendants have carried out their malicious campaign to permanently harm and damage the plaintiffs through publishing false statements of fact online, through making verbal false statements of fact on defendant Jason Smith's YouTube channel. 18. Defendants' false and defamatory statements regarding plaintiff include, but are not necessarily limited to, affirmative spoken statements that plaintiff is a stalker, doxer, and that plaintiff is scamming his YouTube subscribers. 19. Defendants' statements concerning the plaintiff are false and defamatory. They import a charge of an indictable offense involving moral turpitude and infamous punishment, and they tend to injure the plaintiff's trade, business, or occupation. 20. Said statements concerning the plaintiff attack his competence and ability to manage his online business through Ross County, Ohio, and nationwide. 21. Said spoken statements were published with malice and were intended to injure plaintiff's business reputation and his personal standing within the community, or at a minimum, defendants were negligent when they made the spoken statements. 22. Defendant statements constitute slander per se, and therefore Ohio law presumes that plaintiff has suffered damages. Furthermore, as a direct and proximate result of defendant's defamatory statements, plaintiff has suffered actual and special damages, including, without limitation, loss of business earnings, injury to the personal and business reputations, and mental anguish and humiliation. 23. Defendant's conduct was performed with actual malice and or reckless disregard of the plaintiff's rights. 24. As a direct and proximate result of defendants' actions, plaintiffs are entitled to judgment against defendants jointly and severally in a sum in excess of $25,000 for compensatory damages, a sum in excess of $25,000 for exemplary and punitive damages to be determined at trial, injunctive relief, and such other and further relief as the court may deem just and proper.